Hey everyone, I kind of have a different video guys for you again, and I've done a video like this in the past. Specifically the State of NATO DMRs video is the one that I did similar to this. But I wanted to talk to you guys on my thoughts on the current state of Tarkov. I know it's a pretty big topic in the community right now. Um, and I know that I'm a smaller member of the community, but I still think it's good for us to talk about our thoughts on Tarkov, regardless of how big or small, or if we have a community at all. I think it's important for everyone who plays the game and enjoys it and wants to see it succeed, so that the devs have some feedback to go off of. And I think most people have generally a similar consensus. And I mean, like, we're already kind of seeing us talking about these kinds of issues becoming a thing because when Tarkov first went into alpha and beta, I remember buying into Tarkov about 3, if not 4 years ago. I bought it for myself and a friend. And back then, we thought that Tarkov was just going to be like wiping during development, and at the end of development there wouldn't be wipes anymore. But we've already seen that they've changed that. They're going to have the seasonal servers and then the persistent servers, and the seasonal ones will wipe on a season basis, whatever period of time they decide, and then there will be the persistent servers that don't wipe. But back then that was not a concept that was being developed. But I think based on, like, as development has gone on, as people have been talking about the game and more people have been interested, it's kind of something that came up, and the devs were like, yeah, we think we should do this because we realize the game won't work for the whole community as a persistent game mode. So it's important for us to talk about these things. So the other thing I want to mention before getting really deep into it too is Course Tarkov is still very heavily in development. That doesn't mean our feedback is moot, again going back to the point I just made, but we still need to voice our thoughts so that Battlestate can continue to think and analyze the things we're talking about. So yeah, let's that kind of intro out of the way. I'm going to start, and this is going to be a very freeform video. I'm just going to kind of let my thoughts go based on what I'm seeing other guys talk about and what I'm thinking too. So I think the first thing I want to talk about specifically is kind of Tarkov's progression. So I know that's a pretty big debate, is the early wipe, the mid wipe, and the end wipe kind of gearing and what's going on with all the gear. And I think it's not in a great state right now. I think it is actually a little short. Like, level 40 might seem daunting to a casual player, but I myself was a casual player this past wipe, and I hit 40 pretty quickly. This is the quickest I ever hit 40, and that's also because they changed the way quests work. A lot of quests aren't gated behind certain quests anymore, which helped. But just in general, I think that 40 levels of progression is not enough. I honestly think that some of the traders should either make it so level 4 is higher level, or maybe add a 5th tier to traders. And now hear me out for a second. A lot of parts are also not really well balanced. Like, for example, there's a quest on Peacekeeper pretty far into the chain that unlocks, I believe it's the 5.56 AK magazine. But the problem is that AK magazine is just terrible. It is not, like, it looks okay, but the ergo and pretty much all the stats that matter are worse than anything you can buy, even at like level 30. And there's kind of that issue in everything. There are parts at level 3 that should be level 1 or level 2 Peacekeeper, for example, because they're worse than the parts you unlock at level 2. And you could say, sure, it's a thing for cosmetic purposes, I guess. But I think what they need to do is they need to restructure the way that parts are spread out, and maybe add like a 5th tier for the really meta stuff. And maybe that's not a great idea. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there because that also does run into the issue of making it so that meta parts are more available only to the people who will no-life the game. And that's always another issue to balance the power creep, because eventually, if you spread everything too far away from each other, the gap between good level gear and low level gear is too much, which means that the people who are stuck only running low level gear can almost never keep up. So anyways, just a thought. It might not be a good one, but the next thing that I was thinking about is barters. Barters and found and raid are not used enough right now, I think. Too many high value items you can just outright buy. For example, like the high tier ammo like M995 and 7N31, I honestly think all sorts of AP ammo should become found in raid and barter only. And the reason I believe that they should do this is because right now, AP ammo and high tier armor is way too available. They need to come up with some sort of system to help ease kind of the. I guess. What am I trying to think here? Well, like look at the wipe right now. It just turned in. It's just patched 12.10 just released today when I'm recording this. I have 20 mil in my stash, and we'll get into the Bitcoin farm in a little bit because that's why I have most of my money. But we look at the stash, and you have all of this gear. All of my guns are high tier guns, and all of my body armor is pretty much tier 5 and higher. I've got hex grids, I've got some slicks, I've got a ton of tier 4 armored rigs. I don't use them as much. Actually, no, that's not true. I use the tier 4 armored rigs more than the high tier armor, but I have a very small stash in value compared to what you see on a lot of streamers. Like if you ever go and look through Twitch and look at like the top streamers who aren't the big ones, like not like Clean or Veritas or Pestily, Landmark sometimes is running that kind of gear, but I mean like just the people that don't really have big communities or platforms yet that are still high in the numbers, like people who have like maybe 200 or 300 viewers on Twitch on Tarkov. And if you go and see what they're running things like the Vector, Meta HKs, Meta M4s, but their armor is almost always Altons. I guess wrist T's now maybe, but probably not so much because that's a barter only item. Slicks, hex grids, and like airframes and fast MTs and exfil helmets. And you don't often see those people run the low tier gear. Like you'll see people like Veritas and Pestily and Clean and our big like community guys, they'll run those kinds of gears, and they do it because they understand that it's an issue and they prefer running that stuff sometimes, and sometimes they'll run the really high gear. But anyways, back to my point with this. There needs to be something done because right now, if everybody is able to just run high tier gear and high tier ammo, there's no point in playing with 90% of the content in the game. Like a lot of Tarkov's content is based around the gear and the guns that you run. It's awesome that we have a ton of guns to mod and a ton of low tier guns that have a ton of mods, ton of magazines and all this, but it's completely useless if running them is going to get you killed. And like we use it for the memes, but it's not actually like a viable strategy right now to run an AK-74M with budget ammo, like BP ammo and budget kit, because you're going to run into a guy with an Alton and it's going to take you 8 bullets to go through his head. I mean the 545 BP, not 762. And then M4s, if you're running 855 ammo because you can't get a high tier ammo yet, you can't kill anybody unless you face hitbox them. And yes, that is an option, but face hitboxing means you need to be dead accurate and under stress. When you're fighting like say a 4-man, if they're pushing you, good luck killing all of them with a face hitbox, let alone some of them are going to have a face shield. One might be running an Alton, one might be running an airframe with a face shield, etc, etc. 855 is not going through that. So they need to do something, and I think making all armor that's tier 5 and above crafted only and barter only, and make the crafts similar to the barters but different items so that it's not overlap. I think that would help, because if it's crafted, it takes a long time to craft the armor, and then you can list it on Flea, of course, and then you could buy it there. But the value of that armor is going to be way higher. And sure, you'll say, yes, the people who have lots of money can spend more money, but less people, even if those top people are going to be buying it, there's still going to be way less of them than there are of the people who can't constantly afford to run it. And it does suck because that means you get these juggernauts that you can almost never kill. But there'll be so few. It'll be like Tarkov way back in like patch 9.0, I think, which is when they added interchange, or that might have been when they added Rashala. But back then you had to hit level 40. There was no flea market, so running into people that were super geared was extremely rare and really cool when you did. And sure, sometimes you wouldn't be able to kill them because you didn't have good ammo, but then you resort to lag meta only because it's the only thing you can do to kill them. And then same thing with the high tier ammo. Make it crafted only. Maybe make it so you can't craft as much. Like you can craft, I think, 400 rounds of M61. That seems like a bit much in this kind of scenario. So maybe make it like 120 so that you can get like 4 megs full. You can do like a whole raid full of M61, or you could do like M62 or M80 laced with M61 at the top kind of thing, or only use it for something, stuff like that. Stuff like that where it's it would just change the whole meta of the game per se. And I think you might not like these ideas, but I think that's probably where the game's going to go eventually. I don't think Nikita likes everybody running top tier gear and top tier ammo all the time. And case in point, they just added 2 new AP ammos. They added 7.62x39 ammo. It's above BP in terms of penetration, but it's found in raid only. There are no barters for it either. I don't know if you can craft it either. There's also now a tier of ammo above M995. It's the 5.56x45 ammo that is supposed to replace M995 in terms of penetration, so it's a step above them in penetration. I don't know if it does more flesh damage or less. I'm not 100% sure, but it's also found in raid, just like the 7.62x39, and I kind of think that's going to be the way they go. And M993, the 7.62 round, is also again only found in raid. You can't even barter for it, I don't think. And I think that's going to be the going way with ammo. And another thing that a lot of people have started pointing out too is Tarkov ballistics aren't exactly accurate. Like M995 can pen tier 6 body armor, though as far as I understand, the 7.62x39 BP is higher penetration or something. Like, the penetration values aren't true to real life for some bullets, but then others they're over the real life penetration values. Like, so they'll have to do some balancing there, I think. And so yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the armor and the ammo crisis, I'm gonna call it. I guess the next thing to talk about is like Bitcoin and graphics cards and all of that stuff. And I'm not going to dabble too much on this one because I know a lot of people have, but I agree with people like Clean and a couple others where I think we should get gammas to not let you put items in raid. I think they should be, you can carry items in raid like your meds, your keys, stuff like that into raid, but everything else I think should stay in your inventory. So if you find a really high value item, you get the fuck out of there. If you don't find a high value item, there's no point in staying that doesn't really matter. If you don't find a high value, the difference is, or the way that changes with having your gamma have items being put into it or not is different, or is unrelated to that. But I think right now the whole meta of hatchet running, like Clean said, is kind of effed because like you literally run into a raid, and the other thing they need to get rid is predetermined loot spots. Like Interchange on the actual map has a few tech stores, and you've probably noticed there's a tech store as soon as you go in the main ultra part. Like if you go up the staircase that goes towards the escalators, if you go to your right, there's a tech store there. It does not have any loot spawns. If you look on the actual map too, there's also a tech store on the second floor by the escalator that goes down towards Idea. So on the other side of Techlate, like across the mall from Techlate, there's also another tech store. So what they could do is they could just open these up, and all they would need to do is populate the shelves and all that with loot spawns, and then they could just do like some raids. Loot doesn't spawn in Techlate or Texo anymore, it spawns in the other ones, and they just need to do something like that where the loot isn't always in one spot, and they need to have like 5 to 10 different spots that it can spawn in, so that yeah, you could realistically run to every one of those as a hatchling, but there's a very good chance, very good chance that because it spawns in 10 different spots, there's a 1 in 10 chance that the first one you go into has that loot. But there's also a good chance that you don't hit the one that has loot as a hatchling, you get killed before that happens. Or as a geared guy, you go to the obscure one that nobody really knows about yet, and it has all the loot for you. Like, I think that's what they need to do. And another thing to kind of attach on to the armor and the ammo thing, I think what they need to do is they need to add a couple more gun stores like Kiba, and they need to spawn high tier ammo. They need to be locked like Kiba, and they can also spawn high tier attachments as well as body armor. Body armor right now has no spawns pretty much, except there's like one spawn for Gen 4 and Kiba I know of. I know there are a couple that I don't actually know about, but the other main spot you get them is from Raiders. And that's also another issue of balance, is that raiders have high tier gear, and that's always an issue in a game that has full loot systems, is if there's gear that's super valuable, it's always going to be an issue to have NPCs that have said gear and drop it all. And that's something that you can't really balance too well. Like, I have no solution for that, but it's something that I think BSG will be able to come up with some solutions for in the future. And like other people have said, maybe make it so raiders don't spawn within the first couple of weeks of a wipe. Or another thing they could do, this is in terms of the persistent server, what they could do is have it so that raiders like are periodic and we don't know when they're going to come. So say for a few weeks reserve has no raider spawns, but then a week later or after that period, all of a sudden raiders are coming out of the woodworks. They're all over the place on reserve, and then they're gone. And it could feel kind of real because raiders aren't going to constantly be on a map. And I guess on labs they would be, because that's kind of where they go. But they're also, in terms of, let's think of this from roleplay standpoint, they're also living and breathing characters in the Tarkov universe. They're not just going to be on reserve 24/7. They have to go back to their place where they live, where they recuperate, all of that. Maybe they do missions elsewhere. Like, there's a bunch of different things to consider here. And they could easily have explanations for systems like that with just lore. As, oh yeah, this week, and the same as like how Nikita said, they've already predetermined like the weather cycles for a while. They could predetermine the raider cycles internally and kind of plan out. It could almost be treated like an in-game event too, like, and then it could be also tied into like a daily system or a weekly system, or like it could be a monthly event. Like, there are raiders in Tarkov again, go out and kill 10 of them or something like that. Like, they could do something so cool like that, and then the raiders are gone, so there's that source of, and then once they're gone, that source of armor, ammo, and weapons that raiders normally produce is gone. And then that could also simulate that fluctuation that they're trying to get with the persistence, where they want it to be so that all of the armor and gear isn't just like constantly going up. It like fluctuates. The amount of gear and value you have in your stash like goes up and then down and up and down based on what's happening in Tarkov. So I think that's something they could do. The video is running a little long, so I'm going to end it here. We're at 17, almost 18 minutes. So if you guys did like this, this is kind of a different video. I'm trying to experiment with some of my content lately. So if you guys did like this video and would kind of like to see me talk about these kinds of things, again, feel free to just let me know in the comments. I'm also on Discord. I've got a Discord link down for my personal Discord. I keep you guys updated on when my videos are released, and I also post like I've got a couple roles for different games. Specifically, I've got one for Tarkov too, and then I'll keep people who are in Tarkov stuff, I'll keep them up to date on when updates are coming out or stuff. And I also sometimes post other people's content in there if it's valuable, and I'm not going to be covering that kind of style of stuff. So anyways, yeah, thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you want to see more content like this. Check the links below, and I'll see you guys in the future. Next video.